Hello, my name is Haley Jones. This is my negative to Christopher Jacobson's affirmative video on developing the moon, the U.S. funding for developing the moon. Now, the first thing that I wanted to bring up is when you said that for He3 or helium-3, we could get a sample from Russia. However, this would create a political issue. Russia might be reluctant to allow the U.S. in on their data and research. For example, usually a country would ask for something in return. So usually this is money. If you are going to be asking a country for something, they're going to ask in return for money. If you take a look at oil, which is why gasoline prices are so high, and this could be the same with the He3. If another country already has samples on it and we ask for the samples, and we're pretty much saying that we want to start our own thing, our own development into mining the moon, then the countries are obviously going to want something in return. They're not just going to hand it over. So the US would fall even more into debt from this, and it could create yet another financial issue. It'll add even more to our taxes. This would not solve any problems or help the U.S. to fly to the moon, in mine. Increasing funding, all the funding would end up going to Russia and not into our development of the moon. So what I'm saying here is that the funding that we could be putting into our own research will end up going to Russia to try to get these samples and to try to get their research. That's what our time will end up going into. Therefore, instead of seeking a start to mining the moon through Russia and their He3 samples, we should either stay out of their business completely or start our own scientific research. Moving on. You also said, as a part of the solution, that we could start a colony on the moon. However, this would actually cause more problems than solutions, because the astronauts or the miners that we would have to send to the moon would need a mean of survival. Survival comes in many forms. It's not just the basics. You hear food, water, everything else. What's the big one? Oxygen. We need to breathe. Living on Earth and thriving is not just about the basic needs. We need means of social communication. So not only do they need the basic needs and resources, no, they're going to need interaction. They're going to need something else to do besides just mining the moon. Because when you send people up there, it's not going to be, oh, let's just go up there for a day. It's not a day job. It's going to be a commitment for a very long period of time, or else we're going to be wasting our money by sending them there. So in turn, we would need to fund crews to go up there. Not just one person at a time, but many, many people. And they would need many things. That is why I don't think that the colonies would be such a smart decision unless the U.S. had the money for it, and we do not. We are already too much in debt. Like I said, being in space so long and secluded, doing a day-to-day job, would require loads and loads of funding that the United States does not have. Therefore, the United States should not be affiliated with any space colonies on the moon related to developing or mining resources for it. It would cost too much money that would strengthen the debt, if not double or even triple the debt that we are already in. And lastly, you claim that developing the moon for helium-3, that the United States would rise economically. Although, what you did state earlier is that we would seek help through other countries. How does this correlate here? U.S. is rising. Oh, but we're seeking help from other countries. This is a contradiction within itself. Because the U.S. cannot rise to more power if other countries have already started research and have plenty more samples and resources than we do, if we even have any. All the U.S. seems to have, through what you have said, is talk. Talk about doing this, talk about developing the moon, talk about starting funding, talk about this, talk about getting samples. And in what you have said, this is a fallacy. To assume that the U.S. will rise to power because we might attain resources from the moon that other countries already have and get their hands on, this is a hasty generalization. You're saying that the US will rise to power economically by getting samples from other countries, by using other countries for help. No, that's not going to help us to rise at all. That's going to help them to rise because they have what we're looking for, whereas we could create our own means of success. But through what you have said, the conclusion that the US will rise economically through getting helium-3 through other countries, that is a very hasty generalization, and that is a fallacy. Therefore, the United States would not have any type of economical rise to power, so you speak, because all we have are ideas through other people's ideas, through other countries. Do you see where the conflict is here? Yes. So, in conclusion, when you said that we could get samples from Russia, it will create a political issue. More problems will arise than solutions, because the funding will have to be extreme into getting this from Russia. And then mining the moon and creating a colony would also have to increase a lot of funding, which will end up becoming a rise on our taxes. We're paying more. Some Americans would disagree with this because they don't have the money. The US doesn't even have the money. We are far into debt. And then you say that we could rise economically through developing the moon by getting resources from other countries. And that just does not make sense at all. So what I'm saying here is that the US does not have enough money to develop the moon through the ways that you have said. Thank you for your time.